Hey, here's a question for you. Have you ever made a commitment or agreed to an obligation or volunteered for something, and at the time it sounded like a great idea? Perhaps it even sounded noble, but as the event grew closer, it just didn't feel as good. Ever done that? I know I have a whole lot of times. And one example stands out loud and clear. It's 2000, and I committed to ride 100 miles around Lake Tahoe to raise money for cancer research and patient care with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's team in training. In fact, it sounded noble that I did that. Uh, and pretty early on, I had some good wins. I showed up with my beater bike. I learned how to get my helmet on the right way. That's a whole different story. I resisted wearing those tight little cycling shorts because I'm not wearing those things. But after a few rides with blisters on my back end, well, I kind of saw the light and went from there. Um, and and then it was like as if the wheels just fell off the bike. And I don't know if you've ever been there where it sounded noble, but then as you got closer, riding 100 miles to raise money for cancer research and patient care just didn't sound as fun. Why? The training rides were getting longer and harder. I was trying to hang with the young bucks, and every training ride I get back to my car and kiss the steering wheel, thanking God I was still alive. Um, and then I'd go home and just be exhausted for the rest of the day. Uh, it, I kept trying to keep up with the younger riders, the experienced riders, and I was just toast. And I was beginning to doubt my commitment and my ability to do the 100 miles in a day. And that's when Coach Rick came up to me and he asked me, not really asking, but checking in, how are things going? And it really wasn't a check-in because he had a knowing that something was up and I was getting discouraged. And I was about to tell him, Rick, I'm done. But then the shift came. Coach Rick listened to my story, more my whining, and he offered me a plan. He said, let's focus on the fundamentals of cycling, how to get your bike to work for you, not against you, how to pace and ride within your capability, not trying to stay up with the young bucks, how to eat and hydrate on the bike so that you cross the finish line with a smile on your face. And he made me a promise that day. He said, if you show up, you do the work for that week, you trust the process, I promise I'll get you across the finish line. So I took him up on his offer. I showed up for each of the practice rides. I did the work for just that week. I didn't worry about 16 weeks down the road. I celebrated the rest stops every 20 miles. And I never tried to outride the young bucks anymore. I just stayed within my capability and I trusted the process. So on event day, the nerves were at fever pitch, I got to tell you, but we took it 1 mile at a time. And I wish I had the words to express seeing the pace line snake around Lake Tahoe and make the left turn toward the finish line. 100 miles, one day, riding to make a difference for cancer research and patient care. I get goosebumps thinking about it today, even. Uh, so the moral of the story, Coach Rick knew where to look and what to look for in order to help get me across the finish line. And we took it in small steps, bite-sized chunks, one at a time on small focus. So it's sorry, it's ironic that 5 years later, I would be on the receiving end of that cancer research and the patient care. So the other moral of this story is saying yes and following through can have one of the biggest impacts in your life. Okay. So with that, Mark Rosenberger wishing you extraordinary results, and I'm having more fun than is probably legal.